It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Super.
Another day in paradise.
Pretty darn good.
Hope everybody out there is doing okay. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm still trying to recover over a little illness, so I'm sure I sound a little different to you. First of all, happy December.
Nah.
Yay!
Yeah, as this drops, it will be December 1st, the final month of 2019. So
Yeah,
I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, I found out something interesting tonight when I went to log into my Skype. As of November 14th, I've been with you guys for 2 years. Yay!
Yeah, I meant to say something about that. I did have that note down prior, and I meant to say something, and I totally missed it. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, wow, it doesn't feel that long.
That's weird, because usually when I'm involved in a group, it feels like a really long time.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Cool.
Yep, so happy 2 years, Liz.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's been fun.
Wait,
Yeah,
did we invite her back? What?
No, I just keep
she
answering
just
the
keeps
phone.
showing up, right?
Hey guys, it's me.
Oh, damn, who invited her? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have, I'm still kind of tripping out on Disney. It's kind of like a new toy, but that's taken up a lot of my time. But I did read something interesting, and I wanted you guys' take on this.
Uh-oh.
In the new Gwenpool, so this is spoiler alerts for the new issue, guys. Gwenpool is fighting, God, I forget who she's fighting with. But the only way that she can do this is with Thor's hammer. So she goes back in time to when Thor was dismembered into pieces and takes his arm and slips his arm on like a glove, and she's able to pick the hammer up and defeat her foe.
Ew.
Yeah, I mean, ooh. But for one, I didn't think it was the arm of whoever's worthy can wield this sword, can wield this. I thought it was the person. But when he was dismembered, wasn't that also during the time that he was found to be unworthy to wield the Bajorn? Isn't that what it's called, the Bajorn?
Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever
No,
it is.
Bjorn
Yeah.
was a member of ABBA.
Which is why I would know it.
That was good. That was good.
Close enough, I guess.
I just thought that was kind of strange and kind of stretching a little to get there,
It's called bad writing.
Yeah. Grasping at straws.
Well, first of all, I don't read Thor enough, so I didn't know that he was actually had his arm cut off or anything like that. Second of all, you're right. It's whoever the hammer deems worthy. So I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
Of her basically putting her arm. Are you saying she literally put her arm in his arm to hold the hammer?
Like literally, yes. Like a glove.
Like a glove.
Yep.
Yeah.
You?
Like
Yeah.
like that bad writing.
I mean, and it was like all muscular, and I mean, it was very apparent his arm. But I mean, at that point too, it to me, the arm wasn't him. It was a part of him, but not the part that made him worthy, you know?
Okay. Now, we're talking about Gwenpool, right?
Yeah.
So it was probably rewritten in tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad ripoff of some weird, like, Looney Tunes type escapade.
Right.
It's not only does it not bear analysis, it's not worthy of analysis.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
You're missing. I mean, I hesitate to say you're missing the point, but yeah, it's not worth it. It's
Yeah.
not. It's
See, I
not.
guess I couldn't.
It's not meant to make sense. I'm willing to bet.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that because we are talking about Gwenpool. Yeah.
That's true.
So
But still, it seems like
even
sometimes.
the premise, I was going to say, even the premise is not worthy of raising Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
Right?
I wouldn't have thought so, you know.
Why are you reading Gwenpool anyway?
Yeah, that's another good point.
Well,
That's a better point.
I didn't really mean it as an attack, but okay.
some of my fluff, you know. No, and there's a lot of different comic sites and stuff that I read that if I see something interesting, I will go back and read and see what they're talking about. And she's not my normal thing to read, but with this storyline, it was something I had to read.
I wouldn't admit it now either, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of
Especially
like,
after the response we gave her.
yeah.
No, I don't read that all the time. No, of course not.
No, well, she's not normal for me, no. And wasn't she started like through cosplay or something anyways?
Yeah. I don't remember which actually came first. Was it the cover or was it a cosplay? One or the other.
Yeah.
Because there was a line of variant covers one month. It was like different versions of Deadpool. There was like a Hulk pool and all that kind of thing. And there was like a Gwen pool. I don't know if I'm not recalling right now if that came first and then someone cosplayed it and all of a sudden they realize, hey, this is something we can actually take to the bank with.
And now that line from Jurassic Park is going through my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one with
just because we could doesn't mean we should.
Doesn't mean we should, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum.
Mm-hmm.
See, and I felt the same way with the bombshells. When they first did the artwork and stuff, it's like, this is really cool, but I really hope they don't try to squeeze a comic out of this. And what did they do? I think it's still ongoing.
I don't know.
Yeah, but they find something that works, and
I think they can sell it to somebody. They're going to do it.
yeah.
So, Liz is out of the way. How about you, Mikey?
Who the hell let her go first? Jeez.
I jumped in there.
Honestly, that's okay, because I've been sitting here for, no lie, the last half hour trying to remember what I did this week. And I'm failing miserably. I'm like, I know I did stuff, but damn if I can remember what it was. I finally got caught up on podcasts, and I'm finally reading stuff again. I've actually sort of taken a break from movies for a bit, so I feel like I haven't done anything.
So you finally caught up with all the horror now that we're at the end of November 1st of December?
Yeah, now that it's Thanksgiving, I'm finally done with Halloween, yeah. They dumped a bunch of, I said this before, and it's not a complaint, but man, they dumped a bunch of stuff the last few days, and it took me 3 weeks to get through it all, which it was all great stuff. I am glad I did.
Right.
I will definitely try to be more prepared for 2 months worth of material rather than one next time, but yeah, it was awesome. I will drop a bit of a teaser. We're starting to talk about plans for, because all the same group that does all the horror, they do kind of a secondary thing in February for Women in Horror Month. Plans are afoot.
Yeah.
If plans can be afoot. I think I just mixed a metaphor there, but yeah, we're starting to hash out what we might do for that. So
As long as it's not colorful, then it's okay.
colorful foot?
No, a colorful metaphor.
Oh.
Mm.
I'm starting to think maybe we've got the hash thing going a little hard already, but yeah.
Okay, well, whatever.
As long as it's not Plan 9.
We'll try to keep it to less than 9 plans.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We'll at least make sure Plan 9 is not from outer space.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Well,
Liz is once again lost.
I'll go ahead and go because
You're not the only one.
Because there was a pretty good segue there. I mean, since we mentioned Plan 9 was mentioned, what I have been doing this week is there is I don't want to say it's a brand new channel because I think it's a repurposed channel. It was originally Shout Factory's channel, but it's now been converted over to Mystery Science Theater 3000, and they are showing the show 24/7. And they started by doing the entire run in chronological order.
Dang.
And now they can't show all the episodes due to some licenses and stuff like that, but it's been great watching some of those. So that's what I've been doing.
That's pretty cool.
Including seeing the first one that I ever saw 100 years ago, Cave Dwellers, with Miles O'Keefe as Ator. But it's been great. It's been kind of cool watching that. It's kind of jarring though, because during the commercial breaks, they've been kind of promoting the live tour that's been going around, and of course they announced that they're doing Turkey Day marathon, and it's going to be streamed everywhere. It's going to be on Twitch. It's going to be on their YouTube channel. They're taking over the Shout Factory channel on Pluto and just anywhere else. I mean, it's anywhere else you'll be able to watch it. But the commercial has the current versions of Servo and Crow, so the voices are different. So it keeps throwing me off. Because I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I hear Kevin Murphy and I'm hearing Trace Blue, Turbo and Pro, and then all of a sudden I hear that, I'm like, that's not right. That's not. But that's just me. It's not the first time we've had the Robots have changed voices, because Kevin wasn't the original Servo, and of course we had Bill Colbert take over Crow when Trace left the show. So
yeah,
it's been great kind of watching those. It's fun. It's not only is it fun kind of watching the shows, but watching kind of the chat room as well, because some of them are doing trivia and some of them are actually quoting the lines just as they're popping up on the show and going, wow. It's kind of cool seeing some of that. So.
Those people are devoted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually half the fun of watching stuff on Twitch like that is just watching the chat room, because
just watching the chat room.
Yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed doing that.
I especially love watching the chat when the Bob Ross marathons are going on, because there's the whole thing. Whoever the moderators and all that, or whoever is behind doing that, they have actually set it up to wherever there's a part where Bob's cleaning the brush and he talks about beating the devil out of the brush. Well, you can do exclamation point rip devil, and it does a count. So the devil's been beaten this many times. Or they got it set up now where someone does exclamation point cabin and say, okay, well, there's like a 25% chance there's going to be a cabin in this painting. So, yeah, so between that and then some of the stuff that the other chat members are doing, it's kind of fun watching that. So, and of course, it's just great watching Bob do these paintings. It's literally 28 minutes, and he puts together a painting that looks like it would take him hours. It's unbelievable, and he did it all the time. And of course, the story is that's the second time he did that painting. I don't know if you've heard this. What happens is before they start filming, he does a painting, and then they start filming the episode. That painting's off to the side, and if you watch him, you'll catch him kind of glancing over, and he's looking at that because it's a guide painting. So he's repainting that painting during the show, and then once they're finished once the show's over, he will turn around and paint it again, and they're taking pictures, and the pictures will be for the art book that will eventually come out. So he literally does 3 paintings for every show.
Wow.
And
I wonder what happened to all those.
There seems to be some debate about that. It seems like most of them are still there at the company, the Bob Ross, whatever enterprise it is, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Some said some have actually been sent to some of the public broadcasting stations to be auctioned off for raising funds, that kind of stuff. I don't know, 'cause, you know, I don't know. I've never really looked that hard into it, but to find out. So who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah. Or maybe, too, since he did so many of them, he probably cleaned canvases a lot, too.
Right. If he's doing 3 of everything, then why not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's possible. So. All right, Les, how about you? What's been going on with your part of the galaxy?
Well, this weekend I attended a convention here in Dallas and thoroughly enjoyed the time spent there. Got to meet some very good creators. Saw a lot of my friends in the vending area. And I talked with Tom of Tsunami Comic Books and Collectibles, and received a long box for the kids comics for kids.
Sweet.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is pretty cool.
So I had a good time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now a lot of cool kids will be able to have a good time, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Just when they need it.
Yep.
Alrighty. Before we get into this week's discussion, and that's actually a great little segue there, because we're obviously a part of the Comics for Kids organization, trying to help deliver comic books to kids that are in hospitals and cancer centers. We do have a lot of information on our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. And if you click on the CB4K tab, you'll see all the information where we are taking comics. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and have some that you would like to donate to us, we are looking for all ages to teens, new or relatively new, really good condition, because these are going to hospitals. By all means, please contact us, or you can always come to our monthly events, which we do have one coming up. Let me get that date real quick. I'm usually on top. December 14th. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Every second Saturday of the month, we have what we call a meet and gab, and there's also information on the website there. We meet at Wing City, which is located at 1456 Beltline Road, Suite 120 in Garland, and the zip is 75044. What we do is just meet up, have some great conversations, have some great food. So if you want to come by and meet us and kind of talk about what things are going on in the world or the universe of geekdom, by all means. And if you have comics you want to donate to the cause, then by all means we will take them there. But if you can't, please contact us. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please contact us. We can make some kind of arrangements to take them. Or you can just go to cb4k.org, contact them, let them know, and Mark will definitely get back in touch with you regarding what you can do about sending the books to them. Also on the CB4K page of our website, there's information regarding the coloring books that they have on their site or their eBay store that are $10. It's all original art from some pretty big names in the comic book industry, and the second volume is going to be coming out here in the not too distant future. And there's some big names that he's already dropped for the second volume. That's including Will Eisner. Yes, Will Eisner is going to be donating some original art for the coloring book. Frank Rosetta was just recently announced. Eric Powell is going to have some original art for the book. Some really big names for the second volume. So if you're interested in getting the coloring book, they're only $10, and that $10 goes to shipping costs for the books to go anywhere in the United States and some parts in Canada. He's working on Canada as well, going to hospitals or cancer centers so those comics can be in kids' hands. There's also special variant covers that are comics for kids related. The latest is the Doctor Who holiday special, and there's information on our page as well as a link to where you can go purchase that book, and it's a great looking cover. So by all means, try to help out comics for kids. If you'd like to meet up with us, you don't have to bring comics, but it'll be great if you just want to meet up and have some great food and great conversations. Like I said, our next event is Saturday, December 14th at 7 p.m. And all that information is on the website and on our Facebook page. So definitely go check that out. Alrighty. The next couple weeks are going to be kind of interesting because we're kind of I didn't intend it to be that way, but it's going to be kind of sci-fi theme related, which is great. As I always like talking about science fiction. And starting today, we're actually going to be discussing a little Star Wars. The final chapter of the Skywalker saga is just a couple weeks away, and with that storyline coming to an end, kind of figured it'd be a nice time to kind of talk about the overall franchise and where are we going from here, which, and after the last couple of months or so, things may be a little bit more up in the air than they were, say, a while back. So, just kind of wanted to talk a little bit, about everything. Of course, I have some hot Star Wars opinions, and I'm sure I'm going to be upsetting a couple of people, but I feel the way I feel, so I will probably go last because I'm probably going to have the most to say, so I will open the floor to whoever would like to discuss things.
I don't know. You know how there's always, you're either a Trekkie or you're into Star Wars? I was always more of a Trekkie.
There you go, drawing false dichotomies again. Good Lord.
Well, no, but back when I was a teenager, that's pretty much the way it was. And it's not like a different group, but it kind of, in a way, it kind of is, because although they're both science fiction, they're kind of like totally different kinds of science fiction. So I was always more led to the technical, non-Muppet version. Not saying I didn't enjoy Star Wars, because I did. My first memory of Star Wars was back when they had the drive-ins, and they'd always play a double feature. And I remember watching, they messed me up on the episode orders. The first three, which are what, 6, 7, and 8 now, or
4, 5, 6.
4, 5, 6. So I saw 4, 5, 6. I probably saw 5 and 6 together, because I don't remember the first half of that movie taking place in Antarctica. Or, I think it's pretty amazing, because most of the time when you take a live action movie and throw in characters like Star Wars did, most of the time your audience isn't going to buy it. It usually does really, really well, or it doesn't do. I mean, it doesn't even make a blip at the box office screen. So I think some of the characters that we've gotten from Star Wars have been amazing. Yeah. So I don't know a lot of the early story. I guess I know the later story. If anyone knows more, they can take the floor. I'm kind of rambling at this point.
You mentioned the whole Star Trek Star Wars thing, and once again, that's something to the degree I don't get. It's kind of like the DC Marvel thing. I grew up with both.
Yeah.
I grew up with both. With Star Trek, I think we talked about this before, or I've mentioned it before. Every weeknight, 6 p.m.,
yep,
I am in the living room with my dad. We are watching the reruns of Star Trek. I also went to go see Star Wars. My dad was a big sci-fi fan, so he kind of ingrained to me that it's all science fiction. There's not. I mean, you may have a little bit more of a passion for one than the other, but for me, I can't. I'm not sure if I can pick one side or the other, because I can't. I kind of go back and forth, because there's times where I'm heavier into Star Trek, and then there's times where I may be a little bit heavier into Star Wars.
Yeah.
I can't say it's one or the other. I cannot do that. I just can't, because I love the characters. I love the stories. That's just like with me, DC and Marvel. I cannot pick one over the other for the same reasons.
See, and I don't consciously pick one over the other. As far as comics go, it's just one story is usually more appealing to me, and it usually comes from one side more than the other. But I think with Star Trek, people kind of gravitated more to it because, like you said, it was in your home every evening. Every evening, whether it was a rerun, new episode, Star Trek has always been on. Star Wars, you had to go to the movies and you had to watch it, or you get the wrong impression by watching their Christmas special. But I think that's probably where a lot of that comes from, though. People got familiar with Star Trek and was a little bit more defensive, and
Star Trek came first.
Yeah. And kind of set the path for things like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's my girl Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it could be argued they fed off each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had the Star Trek the motion picture without Star Wars.
Exactly.
It wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
That was not the direction they were going.
Right. Yeah, and we'll be discussing that a little bit more next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that for a teaser?
And it is kind of cool we're talking about both close together. So I think part of the ideal of the podcast was what's going to happen now after the story, or that's kind of what I took it as.
Right, and
And
it is.
I see Disney now that they have it. He's made several comments that they pushed too much in the market too soon. That they kind of oversaturated the Star Wars thing. They got it, they were happy to have it, and they just blew it out left and right, left and right. So what I see happening is kind of what we had with the original 4, 5, and 6. I think there will be a pause now for a while, and things will kind of settle a little bit, and then boom, they'll come back and they'll hit us hard. But in the meantime, because it's Disney and they paid so much money to have this, I think we'll continue to see Star Wars on their streaming service in episodes.
Well, they've already come out and said after this, the next Star Wars film's December 2022.
Yeah.
So
it's not quite as long as a pause, but
well,
for Disney, that's like years.
Well, I mean, there was a time where you had to wait 3 years for a Star Wars film, and people don't seem to remember that. I mean, some of them are too young, but maybe I'm not even remember that from if they were around when the prequels were coming out on the theaters.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's be realistic. There was a time when you had to wait 16 years for a Star Wars film.
Yeah. I mean, there was a big gap between the trilogies. So, yeah. Well, and then another one between the prequels and then what we have now. I mean, they've come out and said, you know what, we kind of messed up with trying to do literally a Star Wars film every year.
Yeah.
I think they've rethought the whole anthology films. And you mentioned the streaming service. I think that's where they're going to go. I don't think there will be any more anthology films. I think if they're going to do anything, they will do it as a short run series on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because when they first announced where were all the scuttlebutt and the rumors and the thinking there was going to be. Well, they thought, there will be an Obi-Wan movie. Well, we're not going to get an Obi-Wan movie. We're going to get a short run Obi-Wan series. And that which starts in production next year. And Ewan McGregor is going to be behind it, not only starring but involved with it in some production level as well. Everybody was talking about, I want a Boba Fett movie. Well, we got the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We got that now, and that's been, oh God, you can't avoid that if you're on social media. Everybody's talking about that.
Although I heard Disney is starting to take down the memes because they are. That's crazy to me. To me, that's free advertisement. Like whoever owns that cat right now is banking. But it's like they're still trying to keep it under wraps. But you're 3 episodes in now. It's not a thing that's under wraps anymore.
Well, and I have some opinions about that. But that is the problem with social media, and we kind of talked about it before. And it doesn't have to be Star Wars. It's just any genre related. As soon as a new episode comes out, everybody's talking about it like 30 seconds after that episode ends.
Yeah.
That pisses the hell out of me. I want to see The Mandalorian, but at this point, I'll just wait till it's all come out and I'll do a binge watch. Why? Because I know everything. Thank you, people on the social media. You've spoiled the whole fucking show for me.
Right.
Fuck you very much. So, yes, we're getting the advisory on this episode, obviously.
See, I haven't watched it yet.
I want to. It sounds great, but the problem is everybody has spoiled it. It's like and I think I've talked about this, on off show. Some of these are spoiling the hell out of this. Were the people 6 months ago that were part of the "Don't Spoil Endgame" campaign that was going on? I'm like, you are goddamn hypocrites. You didn't want to spoil it, but of course these are also the same people after they saw the movie did the old "I love you 3000" bullshit. And it's just like, and I think I've talked about that before, because not seeing it opening night, and seen it everywhere, going, what the hell is this? So I look it up and then go, oh, well, that's great. Thanks, people.
Yeah, thank you. That was a big part of the movie, too.
So
See, and I didn't know that what I spoiled was like a spoiler. I saw it. It's freaking adorable, and, I collect everything adorable. And the same day they show us this is the same day they have found a unicorn puppy. So it was kind of like, oh my God, like sensory overload over here.
So, so you've got The Mandalorian. We're going to have the Obi-Wan series, and they've already announced that there's going to be a series for the Disney Plus that's featuring Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk as their characters from Rogue One. And obviously, it's a precursor. It's obviously a prequel to Rogue One for obvious reasons. But so I won't spoil that. So, but it seems like that may be the game plan. It's like instead of trying to do these individual one-shot movies, for lack of a better term, is maybe just do a short-run series.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be the way to do it. And then the films could be for the whatever they're going to do. Which at this point, everything's kind of up in the air. I mean, the only thing that's definitive at this point is the film that Kevin Feige, who's done a masterful job with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's doing a movie. He's doing a Star Wars film. At this point, we don't know about Rian Johnson's trilogy. And Rian Johnson was the one who wrote and directed The Last Jedi. There's not been anything really official, even like, okay, this film's going to be coming out this day. So there's scuttlebutt. Of course, websites, being the clickbait entities that they are, they're like, well, they're off. He's been kicked out because of everybody being so upset about The Last Jedi that, he's not going to do his films. And there's some saying, oh, yeah, he's going to do it. Everything's on. So you don't know what to believe anymore. So until a Lucasfilm officially comes out and says, yeah, it's going to happen, we don't know anything about this trilogy. We do know that the trilogy by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, who were the showrunners from Game of Thrones, are out. That trilogy is not going to happen. And of course, there are some people saying, well, because of the last season being so poorly received, that Lucasfilm doesn't want to be involved. I think it has something about the $200 million exclusive contract they signed with Netflix, but that's just me. If you sign an exclusive deal with somebody and get a boatload of money, I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to be doing this, so whatever. So we don't know what's going to happen film-wise.
Yeah.
So yeah, after December, that's it for a year, and that may be for the best, because it was a little too much too soon.
Yeah.
So have they actually said what the 2022 film is supposed to be, or are they trying to keep that under wraps?
There's supposed to be an announcement in January. They're supposed to release what the title is and who the director is. So of course that's leading to more scuttlebutt saying it's
2.5 years before the movie actually comes out.
Sure.
Okay. It's not that I can't see them doing it. It's just that I can't see it making sense in any way. But whatever.
Well, 2.5 years is enough time to do a movie, but we'll see. I don't know.
But too, it also gives a lot of time for fans to speculate. And I just recently found out that I watch Grey's Anatomy, and they actually. It is.
Oh, wow.
They just had the mid-season finale, but it comes back in January. But they actually troll social media and get a lot of their ideals from the fans. They see, the fan theories and well, that we think this is where this is going and everything else. Shonda Rhimes has actually admitted, yeah, we do get a lot of our storylines from our fans. You know, some of our best storylines have come from fan theories on social media. So, you know, 2.5 years, kind of like with Endgame. I mean, they threw, 6 things on a stage and they're like, oh, if you look closely, there's clues here. And people went crazy with speculation on what this could be and this could be this. And, ooh, I bet that broom, it represents Thor. I mean, there was all kinds of things floating around to where a good director would kind of listen and go, oh, that's not bad.
I don't think they were taking ideas from just, I mean, because I mean that was on the set, so I mean,
yeah.
But they obviously had a script at that point.
At that point, yeah.
That was just good PR. That was just good PR. You know.
Did they ever say how all that stuff was a clue? I've seen the movie and I still don't get it.
I honestly don't. I don't hardly remember the image.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember is someone taking the image and writing "drink more Ovaltine," which I asked. I was like, "That's perfect."
That is.
That is, you know.
That is high level trolling right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure whatever they decide to do, George Lucas is not going to be happy with it. You know, I think
you want to go down that path, okay?
Well, I think once I look at it as my car, okay? It's my baby. I take care of it. I take it to the shop when it's sick. I paint it.
It did the Castle run in less than 12 parsecs. I mean, come on. It's a good car. Let's just say.
Right. But if I turn around and sell that car, I can't then go, hey, you can't paint that car, or hey, you can't take the eyelashes off the headlights. I mean, it's not my car anymore.
Oh, God. You're one of those people that has eyelashes on your headlights.
Why are you surprised?
You are the problem. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding.
And it'll wink at you, too.
It will.
That's because there's a short in the electrical system. That one headlight just kind of flickers all the time. It's very weird.
Very weird.
The thing about George, I mean, I agree with you. You know, here's my thing, because one of the things I had read, and now, of course, a lot of regarding the deal and all this, and of course, all this is third hand. It's all highly speculative. Nobody knows what actually happened during the discussions. Supposedly, George offered, I don't know if they were scripts, ideas, whatever they were, for this trilogy, because he was eventually going to do 7, 8, and 9. Eventually, because he supposedly even talked to Mark and Carrie before all the deal came down, that he was going to do another trilogy. And supposedly he offered this to Disney. And I think he was upset that they didn't use that. And I'm going, dude, from what I've understood of your history, you are a very smart businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have heard the stories of him making the deal to try to get the first film done. He gave up everything except for the merchandising rights. And of course, in hindsight, that was a stroke of genius, because he made more money off the merchandise than he would ever have made off anything else that would have been part of that deal. Because things worked out so well for him. So I've always thought of him as a smart businessman. Yeah. So if he's going into this deal with Disney and saying, "Okay, I'm willing to sell all this to you, no conditions. Here's my scripts or whatever, and y'all could use them if y'all want," and they say, "Well, we'll take it under advisement," and of course go off and do their own thing, that's your own fault.
Right.
You should have said, okay, if you really wanted to do it your way, there should have been conditions. Said, let me do these 3 films. If y'all want to do Star Wars films or whatever, everything else outside of the Skywalker storyline, Go ahead. Let me have these 3 films. I oversee everything. And then, of course, whatever kind of arrangements, whatever. He's overseeing it.
Yeah.
If he wants to direct it, if he wants to write it, whatever else, whatever. He should have done that. He didn't. So he.
See, I don't know if Disney would have went with that, because it's kind of like, we're not buying
no deal.
you.
Then the deal's off.
Yeah.
He can't give up control. Like you said, he can't give up control over everything and then turn around and go, "Oh my God, what the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
And you know what? What do you want to bet he didn't?
He probably didn't.
What do you want to bet that the deal here is that he gets pestered constantly by people asking him leading questions about shit like that?
Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe once he popped off and said, "Well, that ain't how I would have done it." And all of this shit blew up from that.
No, he's come out and said he does not like any of the new stuff.
Who gives a shit? Stephen King didn't like
Right.
the Shining, which was made by a master friggin' filmmaker. Big deal. Nobody cares, except that everybody cares because it's blowing up on social media all the time. I mean,
well, then you have people who are his fans outside of the Star Wars. They're his fans, and they,
Really? Like, I don't.
Every dog has its day.
I've never seen like a THX 1138 convention. I'm just saying.
Right. Or Howard the Duck.
Or like, I don't know, American Graffiti. I guess they have those every weekend, but at the drive-in.
Yeah.
I don't know,
but social media, we have made kings of these kind of people.
Well,
so he does have a following.
He was a king before social media. So let's be fair.
Right, he was.
Yeah.
He was. And I don't want to discount anything he did because, like I said at the beginning, the ones that I have seen are totally him. But this may not be a popular opinion either. When Vader died and they blew up the Death Star again, that would have been perfect to walk away from. They told an awesome story from the beginning to the end of it. No, we didn't get into his childhood or his daddy's childhood or any of that other mess, but those 3 told a perfect story. I could totally see where he was going with those. They weren't, all over. Well, some of them, beginnings of them were kind of all over the place, but they all went together, and then you get into, now back up and this one goes before this. And to me, it's a little jumbled. It wasn't quite the same after he let go. And I guess that's what you get when you have one person who, if I was to do my normal day thing and then let someone else come in, it's not going to be the same, And I think that's what a lot of what we saw there was. It's not the same. It's not bad, but it's not the original story that he gave us. And I don't believe this. Oh, I already wrote this in a book. No. You would not have had Luke kiss his sister if you knew that's where you were going with that storyline. Just wouldn't have happened. So, but I mean, like I said, I can see why people really look up to him because, I mean, the same way with Stephen King and stuff, that came from his mind. It was more than Star Wars. It was him.
And there's some people that agree with you. Said that he probably should have stopped with Jedi, and that would have been it. I mean, I have seen it. I've seen some people on social media said, you know what, if he just left the first 3, if he'd done 4, 5, and 6, and then that was it, then okay.
Yeah, and really, it was a beautiful story. I mean, overall, his dad gave his life to save him. Someone who really shouldn't have done that, turned around, and it was kind of made you feel good because at the end, no matter how bad and dark it was, the light still won out, And yeah, he lost everything, but, I had forgotten that Darth Vader killed the main Emperor. I don't I'm not familiar with his name. The main guy in the black, huh?
Palpatine.
Yep. I've forgotten that part until I rewatched him again.
Mikey or less?
Star Wars will live on.
Mm-hmm.
Which direction it takes has not been determined. There are so many possibilities of stories. I'm not going to venture a guess. Because if I do, then somebody on media will make this claim that I made this statement, and it'll be blown out all to hell.
Like we're that big. Okay.
So we'll let the fake Les account
says
handle
the guy
it.
who's not on Twitter, right? But honestly, I get his point, though. I mean,
Yeah.
in all fairness, there's no good can come from it.
But how many other fandoms? I mean, yeah, there's quite a few, but nobody really has a fandom like Star Wars does. They're like a whole league of their own, and it's cool because it's young and old, and that's why it'll live on. It's been carried on from my kids watch it because of me, and now their kids will watch it, and I don't know of too many films that can create that kind of fandom and continue on that way, For how many years now?
42?
Yep.
42 years ago was the first one.
Yep. And it's kind of one of those, kind of like Batman. You say it and people know what you're talking about. They don't even have to have watched the films, and everybody can tell you what Star Wars is about, Whether it's, a Phineas and Ferb cover or Legos covering it. I mean, I think every great cartoon has done a Star Wars parody, It's just everybody knows it.
Well, I mean, it's filtered into the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we carry droids. It's a droid. It's an android. People kind of probably know what a lightsaber is, or if they see it, they know exactly what that reference is.
Mm-hmm.
If they hear the Imperial March, they will probably pretty much know what that's from, or hear the Star Wars theme.
Really, any Star Wars song, they all kind of have the same. I won't say rhythm, but they all have that same sound to them,
That's the greatness of John Williams.
Mm-hmm. And I think I've mentioned it before. My sister was married to a guy that his dad actually did helped with a lot of the set work, making the models and stuff for the first 3 Star Wars. So when he passed on, he gave his tools to Eric, and Eric, he don't know a wrench from a socket, so he gave it to Phil. So I have a lot of the original tools that were used to build Star Wars sets.
Oh, here we go, dropping this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. It's the only time my world touches his world, even just a little bit.
Yeah, I know a guy that knows a guy that knows.
Yeah. But his son had a lot of interesting stories that a lot of that stuff was made from junk.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the main set creator who's known for the work.
But you don't know his name.
Yeah. Like I said, normally I could tell you. I had it wrote down somewhere too. But that guy, he was like, man, it's going to be expensive to make this stuff. We've got spaceships and all kinds of shit. So he pretty much went to George Lucas and told him, look, we're going to have to repurpose some of this stuff. We're going to have to go to junkyards and get a lot of this stuff. And, there were stories of Coke cans and Frisbees being used. And, I mean, they got pretty creative with that stuff. And looking at it today, you couldn't tell that stuff was junk. you know.
Oh, like the Death Star trench and Falcon and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was model kits. They just busted open and just put things together.
Just started randomly gluing shit together.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about John Dykstra?
Yes. I think he worked on the first 3.
Oh yeah, I mean Dykstra became pretty big because of Star Wars, and he also worked on the original Battlestar Galactica and everything else. So.
Yeah. So I have his tools. He may have touched some of them.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Pretty interesting. And that's another thing that people were kind of upset about with Disney Plus. Now, it's been years since I've seen the original films, and I have rewatched these since Disney Plus has had them. And when, like, watching the first one, that does not look like a show from 77. They have, like, enhanced the colors. The lightsabers aren't so bleedy, and they're, I mean, they did, I guess it's remastered is what they've done to them.
Well, that was probably more than likely George.
Yeah.
Especially when they did his special editions back in '97.
And I'm betting there was more than just remastering. I'm betting he redid special effects in a lot of places.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and that was one of the things that kind of blew up the first day Disney Plus came out. Was it was like an added 2 or 3 seconds to the famous Han Greedo scene in the first film. And coming to find out, people were blaming Disney for that, and coming to find out that they didn't have anything to do with it. That was
all George, huh?
That was what they were giving. I was like, so it was tweaked again. Mm-hmm. It was like,
what is this, the 4th time now?
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they look good. Normally a show from 77, I don't know how to describe it, but it's got like a haze over it. And this had none of that. It's a clear picture. You can definitely tell it's older, but not, I wouldn't have guessed 70s or 80s.
Well, that's good, because that means they preserved the film. That's
good. Yep.
That's that. Just about all films should be preserved one way or the other, even if they're bad, because that would just go, hey, yeah.
Yeah, we need to see clearly what we shouldn't do again.
Right. Lessons to be learned.
Like some parts, like Obi, when he reappears, he was kind of washed out, And like in the newer ones, you can definitely, you can tell he's transparent, but it's very clear, and the pictures are clear, and.
Yeah, they did that back in '97.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, George has, as much as I've jumped, I don't know how much I've jumped on him tonight, but we got to think about what he has done. He's made the movie-going experience better, because he's wanted a better screen, better sound system. He's always wanted to improve things. He's always wanted things to be the best. So, as much as I write him about the special editions, and a lot of this stuff I don't have a problem with. Some of it I like. Some of it I'm going, that wasn't really need to be tweaked, but okay.
Yeah.
It's not my films to do this, say one way or the other. But
Well, he's probably like me whenever I do my Photoshop stuff, and it's like, oh wait, I wind up over and over and over and over. Everybody else can look at it and they're like, oh, that looks great, but I see that one tiny detail that I should have redid, or I see that one little line that should have been blurred out of there, or So I can see why he's probably very, very perfectionist. And when you have something like Star Wars, I would take a lot of pride in that too, And I will have to give him credit that if it wasn't for him and his merchandising deal, I don't think we'd have collectibles as much as we have today. And being a collector of cute, hey, hats off. that had to start somewhere, because
Well, I mean, Lucasfilm Collectibles it rivaled Disney. Only Disney did it better.
Yep. And the toy line that they came out with, I mean, you have to admit, for the time period, they were really well put together. When I had my store, I had people that's the main thing they sell is Star Wars toys. And they have like a Darth Vader head. If you have that head and all of it's filled up inside with the original toys, it's like worth, I think they said over $10,000. But there's so much repop of this stuff because it is so expensive to get your hands on. I mean, face it, back in 80s, I didn't buy a toy to leave it in a package. I took it out, we played it in the dirt, we made mud pies with it. I mean, these toys have been rode hard, So it's hard. Yep. Can you imagine how much they'd be worth if you still had them?
He tries not to think about that because it makes him cry.
That's me with my Barbies.
Because I literally had almost all of it up to Return of the Jedi. When the Return of the Jedi came out, and then so we're talking 83. And at that point, I'm like, I'm too old for this. So I garage sale all of it. I mean, I had all of it. I had the Death Star place. I had all the ships. I had all the figures. I had it all. There was very little I did not have. And I got rid of all of it. Because I'm too old.
And he's tearing up now, even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, and I also did that with my comic books about 5 to 10 years later. So, yeah.
See, I did with my Barbies.
I'm clutching my chest right now. So.
Right.
Well, that's okay, Les, because I got all my comic books back. It just took a lot more money and a lot more time.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you, honey.
That's the hard part. You let something go, and they're like, "Oh, this is worth $10,000 now," and you're like, "What the hell?"
You didn't know that back then.
Yeah. And I cut her hair and gave her a tattoo.
Back then, that was not something you thought of.
Right. It wasn't a thing. Like you said, he practically invented the whole collectible thing. I mean, there were some going on, but not much, and most of it was like real stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was
toys,
like cheap stuff.
Happen.
You'd have a red blob with a little blue on it, and they're like, "Ooh, it's Spider-Man,"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a G.I. Joe with no hair that you've painted red.
But the thing is, we talk about how all that's worth. That's because no one kept it.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing. If everybody kept all their stuff, then it wouldn't be worth this much.
That is true.
Because a lot of them got destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are lost. A lot of them are in landfills somewhere in the world.
Right next to them E.T. games.
That's what crossed my mind.
But they found those, so there's hope.
A new hope, perhaps.
Yeah.
Whoa. Dad joke time.
Mm-hmm. When is it not bad joke time? Come on.
I'm sorry, I got no answer.
So before the show, we kind of get together and we babble and we kind of talk about upcoming things. And we almost opened a can of worms, which we're going to do now.
Oh, boy.
Because she really wants to know the answer to this.
So grab your seats, folks. I was asked, and like I said, I have not watched the newer Star Wars. I by next podcast, I will have seen them all, but I didn't have enough time. But I was asked, if Leia was a Jedi, why didn't she ever use the Force?
And I respond, she's not a Jedi. She has the Force in her because of her bloodline.
Right. And they said it was strong in her bloodline.
Yes. She did demonstrate using the Force in the last film, The Last Jedi. and it was a scene that caused a lot of discussion. I'll say that much. The sequence was, for the most part, the film is the resistance is what they're calling themselves now in this trilogy, because you have the Republic and you have the Resistance against the First Order, which is the remnants of the Empire. The film is essentially them being chased in hyperspace. And then you have the other stuff going on with Rey being taught by Luke on the ways of the Force, which he kind of did. But there was a sequence where Leia's ship was attacked, and she was blown out from the explosion. It was the bridge, and she was sucked out into space. And what happened is she, after kind of being unconscious for a few seconds, woke up, and people said she flew back to the ship. I'm like, well, she didn't fly. She used the force pull. She pulled herself back into the bridge, and then promptly goes back unconscious until they can be able to revive her. People had a problem with that because she should have died from lack of oxygen and being deep cold. Yeah, I get that, but you know what? This is space fantasy. Right. You know, you're trying to talk about logistics for a lot of stuff that you can't define logic to. You know, if you're wanting logic, go watch Star Trek, because and that's one of the things that we kind of talk about. You talk about them being different. Star Wars is space fantasy. Star Trek is science fiction. Star Trek can literally happen. Some of the technology we have now. I mean, we don't have ships. We don't have the warp capability and that kind of stuff. But you know, the communicators that were on the original show, those were flip phones from a few years ago.
Yeah.
The pads that you see them using in Next Generation, those are tablets. Those are tablets now. The technology, we're getting there. We're seeing some of that. We're not seeing lightsabers and people being able to do mind tricks and that kind of stuff. So the fact that people are going in and trying to, you know, are debating some of this stuff, it kind of annoys me, and it kind of amuses me at the same time, if it's possible. So so she did use her powers then. That's about the only time that I can recall right now.
But didn't she also kind of use them, like when Luke was hanging off the spaceship and he called out to her?
Oh, she heard the call.
I think the argument there is that Luke used his powers to grab her.
Yeah. She just heard the call from him.
But then, like, on part 3, when he was up on the spaceship and stuff, that's the same thing she had told Hans, is I can feel that he's okay, and, you know.
Well, I mean...
Or would that be the twinning power?
Well, I mean, that's the Force. Well, I mean, that's the Force. She can sense another Force user, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
she hasn't had any actual training at that point.
Yeah.
We can only assume that in the 20 or 30 years that
the 30 years
between those,
that she learned something.
Luke actually trained her a little bit, even if it was despite her.
Which you have to admit, she was still pretty badass without it, because she's out there, you know, driving scooters and chasing Ewoks. And she did all of that without the Force, you know. Just a gun.
She did all of that without any control over the Force.
Yeah, she had the Force.
I can't believe we're analyzing this at this point, but...
Well, that's part of my other problem with this trilogy, or the complaints about this trilogy, is the main character, Rey.
Yeah.
some of the diehard fans are just going, I can't believe that she can be able to do this with no training and this kind of stuff, and she's able to do this and able to do that. Some of it, I'm going, okay, that can be kind of up the air. We don't know the answers yet. We really don't know much about Ray.
Yeah.
But my other thing is, okay, we've seen 6 other films, or let's take it back a little bit. We've seen 2.5 films. We're talking Phantom Menace, we're talking A New Hope, and in the first half of Empire, where we have Force users who don't know how to use these abilities, but they're using the abilities, but we accept it. You know, perfect example, since you just saw it recently, Empire Strikes Back, the whole sequence where Luke is trapped in the cave, in the Wampa cave.
Mm-hmm.
And he reaches out and uses the Force to grab the lightsaber. How do you learn that? That was instinct. That was the Force.
That was something he was in the process of trying to teach himself with the guidance, I guess, of Ghost Obi-Wan or something like that. I mean, yeah, but it was, if you could come up with a really elaborate explanation for it when you want to.
Right.
But when you're just wanting to bitch about something, guess what? You're less likely to want to come up with an elaborate explanation for it.
That is perfectly it. That is it in a nutshell. It's like, yeah, they're wanting to complain about these films, and I'm sure, and granted, these films to a degree give them excuses to complain about it, but I think part of it, a good part of it, is George is not part of it. Yeah. These are Disney films, which another thing that kind of amazes me is people are when they talk about the Star Wars films, it's all negative toward Disney. Yet look at all these Marvel films, and everybody talks about Marvel Studios. Well, guess what? Both of them are owned by Disney. Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios are owned by Disney. Yeah. So why are you throwing everything negative at Disney, but not throwing anything positive toward Disney? It's always Marvel Studios. If you're complaining, you need to complain about Lucasfilm. Don't complain about Disney. That's my thing. I don't understand that, because I've been seeing that for a while, and I'm going, guys. I mean, if you want to complain about Kathleen Kennedy overseeing all this stuff, which, by the way, that was one of the conditions, supposedly one of the conditions of the deal. Kennedy would be named the head of Lucasfilm. That was a George decision. So if you want to say that's a bad idea, then okay, I'm free to discuss that. But that bugs me too.
Disney will always have a group of people who hate them because they're a big corporation.
And
they own a lot of stuff, you know, and it's kind of like no matter how much good they do, you're always going to have those people who, I hate to say it this way, who think people shouldn't make money. You know? So you're always going to have them, and usually they're the ones who yell the loudest and stuff too. But once again, I'm a collector of cute and Disney. Hell yeah, I'm a Disney fan. You know? I'm a big Disney fan.
They've been doing cute for a long damn time.
Years. They're the one who taught me what cute was.
I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not exactly a Disney fan or a Disney detractor. I'm just saying, and I'm arguing into the void here. Be consistent.
Yeah. No,
because I'm asking for the freaking impossible. I know that.
I think Disney always kind of caters more. I think Disney had a messed up childhood, and kids are always orphans, but he kind of caters more to the girl. You have all the Disney princesses and the girl stories, and, you know, so I guess being a girl, that kind of always drew me in with the princesses and the castles and, you know. But one thing that drove me crazy about Rey is, like I said, I have not seen her movie, but everybody was like, oh, it's about time. They needed a strong female character. And it was like, excuse me, but what the fuck about Leia? I mean,
Well,
she's a
well,
princess, for God's
I, I,
sakes, you know.
well, I mean, I've heard that to a lesser degree, but you know, it seemed like there was a certain demographic of the Star Wars fandom, and I'm not gonna say what, because we all know.
Yeah.
That had a problem with Rey being the Force, basically the Force sensitive of this new group. And you're right. It's like, you know, this franchise has always had a strong female lead, whether it's Leia, whether it's Padme, with the exception of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I mean, where she was nothing, essentially, which still pisses me off to this day. And then you have Rey. I don't understand. It seems like, and it's just not them attacking Rey. They attacked the new character Rose that was introduced in Last Jedi. There were fans that just went after her as well. It's like, what the hell's going on here?
I heard that was bad.
It was
like she totally went away from social media and everything.
Well, that happened with Daisy Ridley with after The Force Awakens. Both of them had Instagram accounts and immediately shut them down after the film comes out because they were attacked.
Mm-hmm. Which is stupid. If you're going to let somebody in a movie ruin your day, you need to reevaluate your life. You know, it just.
And I'm going to say this to our audience out here: it's not just Star Wars; it's fandom in general now.
Yes, it is.
When God, we've seen it. We've seen it on social media, where comic book creators, particularly in writers, not so much artists, because although I'm sure they've got it too, I just hadn't seen it as much. Get death threats.
Yeah.
I don't like what you're doing with my character, so I hope you die, or you need to watch yourself, that kind of thing. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks of Ben Affleck in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. These are fictional characters doing the whole pantomime thing, too. It's like, chill.
Yeah. This is entertainment, people, not life.
And if you're not entertained, that's fine.
Go buy a ticket to something else.
Leave the theater. Turn the channel, turn off your streaming service, whatever. And I know we're talking logic into a void because we're dealing with a lot of illogic.
Yeah.
But there's a certain entitlement, and I think the major problem with the prequels and with this trilogy, and I to a degree have realized that I have it to a problem. I have sort of a problem. They're not meeting my expectations. This is not what I expected. But you know what? I'm okay. Not everything has to meet my expectations.
Yeah, and you're not throwing out death threats because it didn't meet your expectation, though, you know? And I know I give Tom King a lot of crap.
No.
Yeah. But, you know, I like some of his work, and I think that's why I would never, ever, ever issue a death threat to him, though. Never. Right. Or his family or his cute little dog that he posts pictures of. I think like with him, I'm so close to the story, and it's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing? So if he didn't do it so well, it wouldn't infuriate me. But I've never gone to social media and called him out for that because, hey, you know what? I didn't like where you were headed with Batman, so I cut the line, and I'll wait till someone else picks it up. You know, it's a life-ending moment for me. You know.
Same with me. I didn't like what he was doing, and I said, you know what, my money can go somewhere else.
Well, because you really have to think about it. I think at issue 50 is when I was kind of like, you're paying $4 an issue. Okay, at 50, I have put $200 into this story. Now, he's telling me to wait till 100 to get the full story and to be gratified. Do I want to sink another $200 into this story No.
Well, I mean, he's not, and honestly, he's not getting the other 50 issues too, or 100, 50,
Right.
because they're cutting it kind of short, and they're spinning them off into another book. But anyway, of course, we've ventured off. Of course, what we're gonna do.
Shopping.
Surprised.
But that's always how I look at it. Bottom line, with a movie, Frozen just came out. I liked Frozen 1. Am I willing to invest into the second one? Probably, because they did such a good job with the first one, But a lot of consumers, they forgot that you don't have to go and issue death threats. Just take your money away. Put it somewhere else then. That's when they notice. They don't notice this loud voice on social media. They notice that bottom line going down. And that's when they're like, whoa, what are we doing? So you don't have to be crazy. Just close your wallet.
If I may address the idea of Rey not being a trained Jedi, but having the abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll look at Luke. Luke was trained because he was not under the pressure that Rey lived. Luke was on a planet that was kind of overlooked by the Empire, yet he was trained by Obi, who was kind of a beacon for the Empire to come to that planet. Rey was living post-war and was having to cope with the forces that had occupied the area. So hers was a life of survival. And to me, it may be that she had, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, she had innate abilities where she could cope with this and know how to react. And all of a sudden, she is a form of Jedi and is able to face the problem that some of the Jedi before her had to cope with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and
Yeah.
honestly, it works just like any other talent.
Mm-hmm.
You're not necessarily going to know you have that talent until somebody kind of walks up and smacks you upside the head with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be really good at basketball, but if I don't ever pick up a basketball and start bouncing it, I'm not really going to know that.
Right.
Well, and I'm kind of reminded of like Firestarter. She had this power inside of her. She didn't know how to control it. She could use it sometimes, because she knew she had it. But wouldn't the Force kind of be the same thing? You feel that you have it. You may not know how to use it or hone it in until someone comes along and shows you this is the way to do it. But she got mad and a building caught on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I mean, a lot of it is instinct. I mean, I remember one of the complaints was she was able to jump into the Falcon in Force Awakens, and it was able to immediately, getting on the controls and start it up and fly and all that. I'm like, were you feeling the same way in Phantom Menace when little Anakin got into one of the ships and automatically was able to get it up and going and was able to fly and take out the damn droid ship? That was all instinct.
yeah.
He didn't, it just,
He was
And they
he
had
was already
even
trained
said,
as a pilot. This would be like some poor person who drives a Volkswagen all their life. That doesn't mean they can't drive a friggin' Lamborghini. It just
Right.
means they've never
Right.
been that close to a Lamborghini. That's all it means.
yeah.
well, and his mom had also made the comment that he was, or not his mom, but the other guy, the guy who was with Obi at the beginning, and the
Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon?
yeah, Qui-Gon. He had made the comment that he seemed so quick with his reflexes because he was actually using the Force and he could see things ahead of time.
Well,
So he was using it without even knowing.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the case, and that's basically the case with all of them. You can make that case with Anakin. You can make that case with Luke, because he talked about bullseye and Womp Rats in A New Hope. That's the Force helping him out, and that's with Rey. I just don't get the complaints toward her.
Why is it different?
Why other than the fact that she's a female, why is it so different for this character for these people to accept the character doing what she's doing when we've seen it happen essentially the same way with other characters who happen to be male?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nobody has presented a reasonable argument for it other than it being sexist.
Yeah. Which I think if it's something you're born with, like we were saying, I think you'll be able to use it. You may not know what you're doing or how you're doing it, but you'd be able to do it.
That's the deal.
Yep. So.
Because actually, he didn't actually finish his training. He left to save his friends from Yoda before he could actually finish the training. But he was already able to be a Jedi and do the things the Jedi did. And
for crying out loud, he shot down the goddamn Death Star without any training. So, I mean, he literally had 15 minutes of training on the Falcon between Tatooine and the Alderaan chunks.
Yep.
That's all he had.
Which, if I had this big, like, Death Star, and this guy came along and blew it up, I don't think I'd rebuild the same thing over again with the same flaws for somebody else to come along and blow up again.
No. It's okay. Well, because this time we'll make sure the guns are working faster.
Right.
It'll be fine.
We don't fix the weakness. We just go ahead and make sure we can actually.
Right. We just make it operational before we put the armor plating on it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Get more things to explode if it's hit.
Why do we have such a jonesing for this friggin' ball of doom? I don't understand.
Right?
What the hell's wrong with you people? It's impractical to say the least.
Well, and
totally.
The problem there, because I have read, of course, there's like 500 different versions of the script, but the original when George wrote the story for Star Wars, it was literally Star Wars Empire and Jedi as one story. And the actual Battle of the Death Star didn't actually happen till the actual end. So when he's doing Star Wars, he's like, I don't have an ending for this movie. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do these other two movies, so I'll just use that ending. I'll just move the Battle of the Death Star for the end of the movie, and hey, that's a perfect ending. And if this is the only film I can do, then okay, oh well, so be it. I've more or less told my story.
Yeah.
Then of course it took off, and he decided to do Empire, but he didn't have an ending for Jedi now. So the whole thing of trying to do it different, which I've always had a problem with, because first of all, you've already done it once and it didn't fail. I mean, it failed.
Big time.
Second of all, we see at the end of Revenge of the Sith, the frame of the Death Star, right. And in A New Hope, it's finally completed, but we don't know if it actually the gun can work. So we're talking 20 years to build the first one, and it's supposedly only about a 5-year gap between A New Hope and Jedi. Somehow they can get another one built up that freaking quick. Unless it was already being built,
right?
Which
unless they're building more than one from the beginning, right?
Which I can see Palpatine being that greedy of an asshole. I want a fleet of Death Stars, which I definitely could see that.
We're venturing off into psychoanalyzing the Emperor, but okay.
Well, we're just going all over the map, of course. Got to cover everything.
Wouldn't be us if we weren't everywhere at once.
Everywhere and no.
Yeah, mostly the latter, but it's all good. We have fun doing it. That's all that matters.
So, I'm gonna have mixed feelings about this last movie because I'm happy to see it. I'm gonna shed a tear because I'm like, this is over. This story is over. But I wasn't expecting to get these 3 films. So, even with all the imperfections, I'm happy to have them. That's all I'm saying.
Well, shit, if that's all you're saying, what the hell's the last hour and a half been?
Well, that's all I'm saying for now. I think I've said it. I told y'all
No,
we kind of rant a little bit.
You did, and that's fine. No problem.
It's been very aggravating the last few months. It's just so much hate for these films, and I'm like, they're not what you wanted. I get that. They're not the strongest stories. I get that, but the other films were not perfect either. So, I don't know why all of a sudden you're expecting Citizen Kane for these 3 films when they're essentially popcorn films.
You know why? Because in between these movies, they gave us like Clone Wars and what was the other one?
Rebels.
The Rebels. And they gave us a great series in between these that gets you all pumped up,
And I get that. And there's people out there that said that they thought that Dave Filoni should have been overseeing this, and I don't disagree with that. I loved Rebels. Rebels was awesome.
Yeah.
And there's people now that are calling for Jon Favreau, who's overseeing The Mandalorian. If Kathleen Kennedy, whose contract is over in literally 2 years, they want Favreau to be maybe heading to Lucasfilm or just overseeing Star Wars, because he already has the Disney ties because he's done a few movies for them, and he's been so successful with The Mandalorian, and everybody's talking about this feeling like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying it's the best live action Star Wars since Jedi. Which I said, well, Jedi was not all that kind to the Mandalorian was in that film, so okay.
Also, let's get past the 3rd episode before let's see how this ends before we think about how good a story it is. I mean, come on.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Well, of course, everybody's gut reaction.
Wasn't it supposed to be six episodes?
8, I think.
8.
8, maybe 10. I've seen something for 8, but I don't know if there may be more.
Yeah.
Especially if it's been so well received. If they think they can do more, then yeah, they'll definitely come back. So.
Well, I am ready for this final chapter because it is 17 years past its due date.
Mm. Something like that, yeah.
Because I was going to be 51 or 52 when the last chapter came out. And it's gone way past that.
If it was yogurt, we'd have thrown it out years ago. And there are people who argue that it is yogurt. But anyway.
Mm.
Can't stand yogurt. Good. Anyway, just kidding.
I wanted sprinkles in mine.
I thought yogurt was an interesting character.
Use the Schwartz.
Mm-hmm.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Mm-hmm.
How wooed.
Wow. Now we're crossing over.
We're crossing a line anyway.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's been the hardest part of that movie is getting past it. At first, when he came on, it was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And now he's like, oh, now he's really freaking annoying.
No, they kept him. Yeah, he would have been cute if he'd been in the movie 5 minutes.
Oh man,
But
they should have
Helmet,
killed him before they jumped in the water.
they both had lightsabers. I don't know why he survived. I really don't.
Ah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So anyway, I think on that note, we probably need to take a break. We will be coming back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Liz.
All right, for my first pick, kicking off December, I'm going to go with a Christmas title. This one is called New Year's Evil. It's the DC Villains Christmas special. They did something kind of like this last year, but it was kind of weird because it was a Christmas thing, but it was like beach bingo kind of cover. So, this one's a little bit more Christmassy. They're going to give us 10 stories in all. It looks like they're going to have appearances from Sinestro, Toyman, Harley Quinn, and even from the Calendar Man. So, should be some good ho 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 stories.
Guess we have to wait till next year for the Condiment Man episode.
Alrighty. Mike, you're next.
Okie dokie. Well, my first pick is a trade from Boom Studios. I am picking the Volume 1 trade for Ronin Island. I want to say at least one of us has talked about this book before. But yeah, this is the story of a couple of kind of samurai trainees, Hana and Kenichi, and they live on this island, which is kind of separated from mainland Japan. But the reason for that, and this is like set in the past, the reason for that is because there was some sort of cataclysm involving monsters, and I'm not going to, well, I mean, it's a little spoilery, but hell, these stories have been out a while. This is the trade. Boom Studios is sometimes a little slow to release trades, so they're on like issue 6 or 7 now, and this book covers issues 1 through 4. But it's a really good story. These two youngsters do not get along at all, and they're being forced to learn to work together to save their island, basically. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the outside world that they get to find out about. So it is definitely a really cool read.
That sounds good.
Yep. Greg Pak, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
It's been pretty good. So yeah, definitely we'll be picking up that trade. I am next, and for my first choice, I am going with Vampironica New Blood. It's a new series, and it's a follow-up to the crossover we just had. It was Jughead the Hunger versus Vampironica. She's back home in her universe, but she has been changed due to the event of the crossover. So she's trying to figure out how she has changed and all that. I've been enjoying this. This is something I didn't expect to enjoy Vampironica, but Frank Thierry has done a great job. And with this book, this issue, he's joined by Michael Morrissey, and I love his writing as well. So this is going to be good. I'm glad to see her back in her own book. Not that I had any problems with Jughead the Hunger, but
Yeah, this one was on my radar too.
Same here.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Les.
My first choice comes from Abstract Studios. Terry Moore's 5 Years, Volume 1. Story is called Fire in the Sky. I believe I've spoken of this before. You have the characters from Strangers in Paradise, Motor Girl, Rachel Rising, Echo, all combining for this story, and it's a story where Moore is talking about a bomb that will destroy the most common element in the universe, and that's hydrogen. So you've got these characters were stepping forward and trying to stop the construction of this bomb. This is a collection, I believe, of the first 5 issues. This is a great story. I thoroughly enjoy this. I'm looking for the extension of it. So try this one out.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think nearly all of us have plugged this story at some point or other. So, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
It is.
Alrighty, Liz, you're up again.
All right. Well, continuing with good stuff, I've got one from Boom Studios for you guys. Power Rangers. They go to New York City. They're looking for Tommy. And they discover that Tommy is actually with the villainous Shredder clan. Who are they going to run into? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For the first time ever, they're putting these two together. I really loved when they did this with Batman. It's kind of a different take that they take. But this one kind of seems like the Power Rangers are walking into a different situation because now their friend is in a gang and the Turtles hate them too. So what are they going to do? They've only got 5 issues to figure it out. So check this one out. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it's kind of cool that they're playing Tommy back in the bad role. You know, when my kids first started watching Power Rangers, he wasn't a nice guy. So it's kind of neat to see him back in that role again, and if he'll eventually become the White Ranger.
Sounds neat.
Another unusual team up that will probably be really, really good because they've 99.9% of the time the unusual team ups have been really, really good.
They have, yeah.
So. Alrighty, Mikey.
Okie dokie. My second pick is from Dark Horse, and this is called The Butcher of Paris. This is issue 1, and this is actually a true crime type story from World War II. In 1944, there was a Paris cop trying to track down a serial killer, with the Nazis kind of following him around, being Nazis and stuff. And so I think this is going to be an interesting story, and I think the fact that it's based on historical stuff will make it that much more interesting.
Yeah, this was on my radar, and I can't wait to get my hands on this.
I did not see this listing, but it is on my radar for sure.
Yep.
Alrighty, I am next, and for my second choice, it's from Action Lab Entertainment. It's called Big Alien Moon Crush, and it's written and illustrated by Art Baltazar. And this story is an interplanetary war is going on, but it may come. The hope of a peaceful resolution may lie in a secret love affair between two enemies. So this is essentially Romeo and Juliet in space. I love Art Baltazar's work. It's always a fun ride, and this kind of caught my attention. I was like, yeah, I want to check this out.
Yep, he does some really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the sound of this.
So, alrighty, Les, you are next.
Next, from Aftershock Comics comes Mary Shelley, Monster Hunter. This is a collected volume, and in this, Mary Shelley, the creator of Frankenstein, is questioned, or the idea is questioned, that she actually did not come up with this idea. But the truth is revealed that in 1816, Mary, Percy Bysshe Shelley, Sisters Clara and Fanny, and Lord Byron find themselves guests in the Frankenstein estate. In this, you find that these people actually live this story, and therefore this is what brought the Frankenstein to life. No pun intended.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
It's alive.
But I'm looking forward to this. I remember getting number 1, and then was not able to locate following issues, but I'm here for this.
You know he waited all night to say that.
Absolutely.
Yes, I was biding my time during our discussion tonight. I had it written down, and
Just to pull that pun.
Just pull that.
But yeah, this actually was a really cool story.
Yeah.
Definitely. Check it out.
All right. Any special mentions or shout-outs this week?
We have a honorable mention.
Oh, yeah, honorable. Yeah.
So he just didn't want me to talk again. This week for our honorable mention, they're calling this a spiritual successor to The Walking Dead. It's called Gung Ho from Ablaze Comics. This is going to follow 2 brothers, Zach and Archer Goodwoody, and a white plague has killed most of humanity. And they're finding out that the only way to live is inside these like cities that have been, fortified and everything else. Well, they're finding that not only is the wasteland pretty, outside the walls is pretty dangerous, inside is pretty much as deadly too. I think I'm really going to like this one because the thing that really drew me into The Walking Dead wasn't necessarily the zombies, which I'm kind of glad this one's not taking a zombie approach to this. But it was more the survival of, I think the biggest thing that's going to take us out, it's not going to be the big thing. It's going to be the afterlife. People get pretty nasty and, especially when this is all you got, you protect it pretty hard. So we will follow them and see how they navigate this new world that they're in. They're calling this a post-apocalyptic world where tension is palatable and the wrong move will get you killed or more. So should be pretty interesting. Like I said, I haven't read a lot out of the Ablaze comic line. I don't know if I know too much out of there, but I have seen some previews of the artwork in here, which was really, really, really good. So I'm hoping the storyline, with as good as they've built it up, is really, really as good as the artwork here. And it's in color, so a little different than The Walking Dead. But it should be pretty good.
Yeah.
I think so.
Claiming that they're the spiritual successor to The Walking Dead is pretty ballsy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got.
Yep. That's some big shoes.
Big something.
Mm-hmm. I said if they go with the part that drew the readers in, I think even with The Walking Dead, they became family to us. So the stories were more interesting, not necessarily because it was a zombie story, but like I said, seeing how these people survive and navigate in this nasty world, I think this one not having zombies makes it a little bit more believable, if that makes, as believable as a comic can be. It could happen.
Sure.
Okay. Any special mentions or shout-outs this week?
Don't think so.
Well, I did want to mention, last month we lost Sid from House of a Thousand Corpses, and this week we also lost Michael Pollard. So, yeah, died at 80.
one of those guys that the name you might not recognize, but if you see his face, he's like, oh yeah, he's been in everything.
Oh
Everything.
God.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bonnie and Clyde. Yep.
He was in a Star Trek original series episode
Yep.
back in the day.
Yep.
And he was also the only live-action Mr. Mxyzptlk.
That's what I say. He kind of looks like a comic book character. Maybe that's why I was thinking that.
Specifically, that's a really good fit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be a really good choice for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I also want to mention the passing of Tom Lyle on the 19th. Loved his art. Best known for his run. He did a couple of the Tim Drake Robin miniseries back in the late 80s, early 90s. Did a run on Spider-Man. He was actually the one who created the original Scarlet Spider costume of the blue hoodie and the red spandex, which I've always dug that costume. Did a run on Starman, which was I believe the Will Patton version of Starman. Did a run on the Comet back when DC owned or had licensed the rights to the superheroes from Archie Comics, which I just there was something about his art that was I just loved. When I saw it, it was so striking. I knew it was him. He passed away at the age of 66. I knew he was. I think he was like in a coma. I don't remember all the details right now, but really, really enjoyed his art. And when he passed, it was amazing reading some of the comments from other creators praising his work.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was a lot of love out for
there
him.
was a lot, yeah. And it's a name that you don't. It's another one of those names that you don't hear a lot of. So when, unfortunately, something like this happens, that's when it's sad it takes something like that for creators to come out and go, oh my God, he was so great, so underappreciated. And of course, he also taught, he was actually teaching sequential art at Savannah College of Art and Design. And he had been there for 14, 15 years. So I do want to just acknowledge his passing, and of course our thoughts are with his family and friends and co-workers. I know Chuck Dixon, who wrote the Robin miniseries that he drew, did a post on his website, and I've not had a chance to read it, but I'm sure it's a pretty powerful post since they worked together.
Yep.
All right, with that, we'll go on to our regular shout-outs. I want to thank Pops Goes to Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of such a great group of fellow podcasters. We definitely encourage you to check them out. There will be a link in our show notes. We also encourage you to check out our fellow podcasters that make up Podern Family on Twitter. And we do appreciate them supporting us by retweeting our links. And the best way to check out some of their fine work is to do a search on Twitter, #PodernFamily, and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, by all means, download that episode, and hope you have fun enjoying it, listening to them. I also want to thank Maddie and Martin for supplying the music to our podcast. Definitely check out their music. We'll have a link in our show notes as well. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We do appreciate your support as always. And we value your feedback. If you have a comment, question, observation, suggestion, complaint, what have you, by all means, contact us. And there's several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to our website and go to our About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out. By all means, follow our social media pages. I've already mentioned our Facebook page, The Fellowship of the Geeks. We're obviously on Twitter, @FellowshipGeeks. By all means, follow us there. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, you can do so. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you download or listen to our podcast, if you would be so kind as to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you listening.
Thank you for listening, everybody. Do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,